The Texas Tribune and UT Austin released this week the last public poll before early voting began. It asked lots of questions to voters about the election and about the coronavirus pandemic. So joining us now to dig into it is Jim Henson, director of the Texas Politics Project at UT Austin. Jim, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Your poll, especially when it comes to the presidential and Senate races, tends to give Republicans slightly better numbers than some of the other public polls that we've seen lately. President Donald Trump held a 5-point advantage on Vice President Joe Biden, and Senator John Cornyn held an 8-point lead over MJ Hagar. Do you think that's indicative of a shift in attitudes these last couple weeks?
Well, I don't know if it's a broad shift in attitudes, but certainly I think we've seen a certain amount of rallying around the president by his constituents and by especially Republican voters and strong Republican voters. Given the path of the pandemic and other events, it was a pretty rough summer in a lot of ways for the president. But I think we are seeing a certain amount of settling among Republicans. Most Republicans have made up their mind, are very unlikely to change their mind. I think that's reflected in the numbers, but there's naturally some fluctuation in the polls. I think you'll find that right now, most of the polling in Texas has the president somewhere between 2 and 7 points ahead. We fell a little on the high side of that, and it feels about right. I expect it to continue to move.
And as we have a growing number of people who identify as independent, have those independent voters settled on somebody yet?
Yeah, I mean, independents are an interesting case right now. At this point, independents are edging slightly more in Joe Biden's direction. He led among independents by 45 to 37. Two things to note about that. One, generally in Texas, we expect independents to lean pretty decisively in favor of a Republican candidate. We're not seeing that this time. You know, by comparison, at this point in the 2016 polling, in our polling in 2016, Trump led Hillary Clinton 47 to 19. So we've seen two things there, a flip, and as with everyone else, more independents have already made a decision about the race. There are some that are still hanging out there, but not as many as we would expect from independents who as a group are generally less attentive and generally less engaged with politics. Well, like everyone else, they're a bit more engaged this time.
But then you ask people in the poll if they would be confident in the results of the presidential election. And 41% said that they themselves would be confident in it. And only 47% said they thought the country as a whole would be confident in the results. So what does that tell you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that these two questions on people's confidence in the outcome are really among, the most worrisome results that we saw. I mean, a majority of Texans can't just say at this point that either they expect the rest of the country to accept the results of the election, or even worse, that they themselves will accept the results of the election. I think over a long period of time, and it's spiked during the Trump presidency, but it's been brewing for a long time, people have cultivated doubts in the electoral process for partisan gain. And I think that what we're now seeing is that kind of messaging and that kind of discussion is seeping into people's political consciousness in a way that's really undermining their faith in the system. And it seems to me that it's an important problem that once we get clear of the election, elected officials would be well advised to revisit and see if we can't tone that down.
Were there any results that you would say surprised you or concerned you?
I think we did a wide range of questions that we've now done for 3 polls in a row on people's reaction to the coronavirus pandemic. And I think, on one hand, we're seeing an understandable increase in accommodation to the conditions of the pandemic and of having to be careful around it. And in that sense, people expressed across the board more of an increase in the perception of things that were safe to do, including voting for that matter. But I also think we've seen a stark partisan differences in the degree to which people perceive that this is a crisis and then behave accordingly. And, as we go into flu season and we go into the possibility of the pandemic getting worse again at the macro level, I'm a little worried that those results suggest that we're going to have to redouble our efforts to be more diligent on the public health front.
Jim, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.